standard dry fly. Again, thread body. But on this one we're using something, the hook is a little bit different. This one's a 206 BL because of the shape. And if you really look at it, I've got a 16 gauge, but look at the size of the fly right here.
Right.
That's 20, maybe a 22. See how small that is?
Because you're not tying it down to the bend.
Right.
Yeah.
This is the fly. There's the fly body. That's less than the gate. So even though I've got a 16 gate,
Yeah.
I'm dealing with a fly that is a lot smaller. And the nice thing about that is I now end up with a larger tippet. Instead of 6X, I'm dealing with 5. Big difference. Instead of barely hooking a fish with a 20 or 22, I've got a 16, which means I got a better gate I've got better hooking ability. So I've got better hooking ability, I've got a stronger leader, but yet I still have a very tiny fly. And so tying flies on shorter shanked hooks will really help. And this again is another one of those really simpleton flies in the fact that there's again just 3 materials.
No hackle even, yeah.
There's no hackle. What you got is a tail, which is coq de lion, thread body, a wing. I'm using CDC, but you can use Antron or you can use anything you want for a wing. Okay? And dubbing. That's it. It's the whole fly. You're not dealing with something that's going to require a whole lot of tying skills. And on this one, what I do is I start again about where the thorax area is. I leave room for my head. Bring my thread back. And then what you want to do is you want to bring it down the bend just slightly. So at this point, I like to open up my thread and flatten that out a little bit because I'm going to come around the bend. This is actually going to be just about in the water, so I like to flatten it out a little bit for a couple of the turns that go down. Say just a little bit, just a little, not a whole lot, okay? And flatten my thread again. Now I'm using, and the story says you can't flatten uni-thread. Baloney. Because uni-thread is a bonded thread, but people say you can't.
You see the technique where you leave the tag end hanging out to split your tails?
Yep. That works really well. It does.
Yeah, I was wondering if I should trim this off.
Well, if you're a little nervous, then leave it. So now we're going to use some coq de lion. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take just a pair. You don't need much. If you've not used this before, because it is so stiff, you really don't need a lot of material. This is stiffer than microfibrils. I don't know if you've ever done it. Okay, we're looking at the tail length to be about the length of the hook shank. Okay, or a little longer. Tie it.
So is this supposed to represent a dun or a spinner?
A dun. Okay, take a couple of turns. Then I like to take a turn right underneath. And that'll help split it. See the split? Cocked it up a little bit. I took the tail and went from actually slightly down to slightly above, right? By putting a turn underneath it and cocking it up. Then I took a turn back over where I was. In other words, by tying back down over where I cocked it up, I've created the same and created a split tail. Now, a lot of people like putting a ball of thread. Some people put a ball of dubbing, all kinds of things to help switch the tail. As Bill had said, you could leave your tag end of your thread on and then pull it between the two tails to help split them. That's been around for a long time, works like a charm. There's nothing wrong with doing that. The other one is where you would, I'm going to go back here, you literally take your tail and you actually split the tail with the dubbing. Come on, tail, open up on me. There you go. Where you take your thread and you actually go between, and I'm running backwards, but you'd go through, down, back, around, and down to get yourself your figure eight to split your tails. There's a lot of different ways to split tails, and what I recommend is find one that's comfortable for you. Try the different ones. If one works good, it's the one you ought to use. And I brought in some CDC for you. That's what I've been using. You can use the poly yarn if you want or something. But on a 16, I'm only taking one. You can take 1, 2, or 3. And I'm using, these aren't really the puffs, but they're the shorter CDC fibers. When you go through your bag of CDC, you usually, you need to look for those that are about, let me get this in the, they're about that size. And there's a bunch of those hanging at the bottom of your bags. Normally you're looking for the ones, because you're tying CDC with 2 or 3 feathers and you're looking for larger feathers. You could use a puff if you'd like. Now puffs are about half the size. A puff would be about that size, right about to there. And puffs work also if you wanted to use a puff. But what I do is I take it, stand it, not flat, but I stand it on edge. I take the single feather, right? Pin trap it, make sure it's laying right on top. And you're not worried right now at the length of this, because we'll be trimming this again at the end. So a couple turns in front. Okay, back to your dubbing. Again, for Antron, I'll use the super light color. Can you see the dubbing tightening up when I'm spinning it? Just all tightened up right in through there. You're looking at the thorax only. And the head. We'll finish the head. Now what I like to do, and I purposely like to leave my feather a little bit long, because what I like to do is cut it to length, and then, because it's me, I like it to look a little neater. Now I didn't have to do that, but you got to admit it looks nicer. It doesn't make it fish any better. Nothing else changes, but to each person, the tyer, anybody who looks in your box, they're going to go, wow, those look really nice. Doesn't fish any better. It's the same as anything else. And that's it. So